It's the Monday Shakedown, March 5, 2012, and time for a potpourri of auto racing news. Potpourri? That sounds a little bit like Martha Stewart, and you know who she is, the Danica Patrick of home decor. Instead, let's go with paella of racing news, because we're going to focus on the final F1 testing from Barcelona, Spain, giving you a taste of what we've learned and a savoring of the new racing tech cooking up in the 2012 cars. Plus some other tech news in the rest of the racing industry, including a little personal experience of mine with the DeltaWing, which apparently ran a shakedown laps recently. Then let's finish with this racing recipe, the V8 SuperCars opening race results, because it allows me to say a few words about Ford and leave you with a challenge question. Yeah, but the real aperitif for this shakedown menu is me serving up some F1 predictions heading into the 2012 season. Then you can throw it all up back at me when my ideas choke against your senses of who's going to win this year. Okay, way too over the top with this paella food theme, right? But it could have been worse. I was really thinking of doing an opening as a silent movie tribute to the Oscar-winning pick, The Artist. I can tap dance, and I do have this film about a dog. Okay, the executive management of Drive asked me to formally apologize for showing you that video and the cruel demise of one of man's best friends. Drive asked me to tell you how truly sorry I am. And may I add a personal note? Shakedown in showing that video in no way encourages you to participate in the chasing of dogs with the cars. That should be left to the professionals. Okay, we done there? Here's another example of where my mouth got me into trouble. You know, the DeltaWing. Maybe you've already seen the 17 seconds of testing footage. Well, I met the DeltaWing people a year ago at Lime Rock. I know Dan Gurney from my Toyota days. His AAR group is building the car. So we started talking about doing some coverage of the Delta, maybe a little inside look. You know, be there for the first shakedown. Because while I'm not a fan of its looks, I never, like the others in the media, doubted the tech or questioned whether it would turn or not. Delta, in my opinion, is a noble push against traditional thinking and a fantastic proof of concept project which racing needs more. But it seems I did call it ugly, and Dayton Duncan, the Highcroft head, took exception to my opinion. You can see where this is going. So I sent an email explaining my public support of the effort, my right to an opinion, and a statement suggesting that we all know that DeltaWing was not an exercise in appearance, but an exercise in technology. Still, you call a parent's kid ugly, and even if little Toby wears out the Photoshop to finish his class picture, you know you're not going to get a Christmas card from Toby's folks. So the DeltaWing PR reply did come, kind of suggesting makeup sexting, but who knows? And it's all okay with me. Look, I really do hope we get a story because I have 3 questions, and here they are. Number 1, it seems that with the rotation of that car being behind the driver, how do you aim the car at the apex? It's not putting the nose wheel there because, like a long-ass semi-truck, the back will run over the apex. Number 2, they're using the failed Aston Martin LMP1 tub as the basis for DeltaWing. So what changes did they make to the Aston Martin piece? And number 3, knowing that ugly is a sensitive subject, but quite subjective, may I ask your opinion on the looks of Sarah Jessica Parker here? You know, just to get a range on your ugly meter. Let's talk V8 SuperCars. They ran their opening race in Adelaide. Will Davison took his Ford to victory, leading a 1-2 for his team and Ford. And obviously laying down the marker that says, not this year, Holden. Your 2011 Series Championship is so last year. Well, kinda. They run 2 races over the V8 SuperCars weekend. And on the Saturday race, Davidson and Ford did have it won before running out of fuel on the last lap, giving it to Whincup and Holden. But the Sunday main event, it all came good for Ford, just like it seems to be doing in all Ford's racing, including attracting Penske to change from Dodge to Ford in 2013 in NASCAR, moving from what looks to be a pretty cool 2013 NASCAR Charger, to the 2013 NASCAR Fusion that we've all seen before. But here's my question. I may not like Ford not being in F1 and not going to Le Mans, but they are committed to what they do. NASCAR, drag racing, rally, extreme stuff with Ken Block, V8 SuperCars, and the new World Touring Car Championship Focus. And they win. So my question is this. Are they the best brand in racing, or who? Give me your answer. Oh, and hint as to one of your options. It wasn't in the racing news, but it may have racing implications. Audi, in advance of the Geneva Auto Show, spoke about FRP fiberglass reinforced springs, 40% lighter, stronger than steel. They're going to show up on the 2012 e-tron R8 production car, mass adoption across the Audi lineup in the following year. And why not in a race car? Another tech that Audi will showcase is called predictive suspension. Mercedes is playing with this too. But basically, it's cameras scanning the road ahead, 20 meters ahead, and translating the finding as to bumps, surface, and corners to set the suspension appropriately. And now you can see where all this computer-controlled F1 suspension work ended up and where F1 was headed. So it is F1 time. Let's talk about the test days. The final days just ended this past week in Barcelona. I never get that right. Here comes another one of my top-line summaries. Not a full data dump, so as to focus on the key points and to open the door for your input as to details and opinions. First, let's throw out the test times. Sorry, Kimmy. And your last day rise to the top of the timesheet. They only flatter to deceive. But I do look at segment time teachings and speed trends. And for that, for example, it does bode well for Kimmy and Lotus. I read the blogs, as you do, and I check the images coming out of the tests. We saw, for example, new tech be introduced on the final day, in particular with Red Bull and McLaren, to prevent more cribbing of their ideas from the other teams. Oh, and before I get into this, let me apologize for being somewhat of a tease as to having Scarbs F1 on a Skype chat on ShakeDown and for doing our ShakeDown Drive F1 live chat. The team here has been quite busy. Matter of fact, all of them are out with Alex Roy shooting another Live and Let Drive. And thanks again, Ian Whalen and Kat from FLD for being the people that are helping us out. And it doesn't help that myself, I'm also going to be headed on the road into the next 2 weeks of travel. First with the Palatov Sim Raceway test and then Sebring. So frankly, I haven't been dickish enough to force the two events into the drive schedule. But I am assured that they will happen, and I assure you that we'll give you a sufficient heads up so you can play with our live chat. Where was I? Oh, F1. Red Bull has a new rear exhaust setup, using all sorts of airflow management and vanes and ducting to push the exhaust forces to the outer edges of the diffuser to create an air curtain. Frankly, like on the Sauber, which has been quick as well. Wait a minute, Newey's stealing from Sauber? Plus, Scarbs think they found some vent slots on the tub of the RB8, the yellow areas, suggesting air management over the top of the car and more blown diffuser rumors with that bottom slot. Either way, RB8 times have been quick. The last-minute updates have led to some last-minute mechanicals, which should be sorted out. And when Red Bull did race simulation runs versus McLaren, they were like a minute down the road at sim race end. But McLaren did last-minute updates too, including a somewhat complex front wing and rumors of it being F-duct-like venting air through the planes to reduce drag. And those black wheels, they look cool. Speaking of front wings, it feels like the Mercedes is hiding its true pace and has more than a few tricks built in. Focus has been on innovating with its F-duct front wing, now called W-duct. No driver action required, but rumored to be vented in ways that the air gets channeled more to one side of the wing when the car is in yaw, turning, to put max downforce where it's needed. Ferrari seems to be able to turn a vanity lap and show speed, but not consistent pace. Being extra rough on the tires is the rumor. OMFG, it's ugly, it's slow, and now it's a handful. If I were to say it's a dog, well, we all saw what happens to dogs on an F1 track, and I don't want to show you that again. That seems to be too mean for Ferrari, though. They will struggle, but they will perform a bit. But a bit too late for a championship, and probably a bit too late for Massa's Ferrari career to continue. Hello, Mr. Perez from Sauber Ferrari. And here's my other driver guess. If Alonso and Hamilton were talking, Fernando would say, Lewis, get your head out of your ass and your house in order and make the McLaren thing work because you may regret leaving, assuming options are always better elsewhere. And then there is Lotus, showing good design, the Renault power, good enough for the Red Bull, speed, consistency, and Kimi. And look at the Ferrari guys looking over their shoulder in fear of what Lotus can do on the grid. So I looked at the race winners for the last 3 years. There were 55 GPs over that period of time, and I came up with this. Red Bull won 49% of the time, McLaren 24% of the time, Ferrari 13%, Mercedes Brawn 14%. There are 20 races in 2012. So should we predict 10 wins for Red Bull, 5 for McLaren, 2 for Ferrari, and 3 for Mercedes? Well, yes and no. I'm taking 1 from Red Bull and 1 from Ferrari. 2 of those 3 years, Ferrari only won 1 race in those years. And I'm giving them to Lotus. 2 wins for Kimi in 2012. Now, That's my prediction. What do you predict for 2012 in F1?